Ryobi's smallest cordless belt sander. We'll talk about the details and we'll use it when we get back. I'm Tim Johnson. You're watching Shop Tool Reviews. This is the Ryobi PSD101. It's their 1/2 inch by 18 inch belt sander. Now this is a brush tool, but who cares? It really doesn't need to be a brushless tool, so I'm all for that. It's also only a $79 tool. So $79 bare tool is what you can get into this for. Now, it's not available yet at the Home Depot, but look for it this month. It should be hitting the shelves. You should be able to find it online as well. Now, we're gonna use this tool. We're gonna dig into the details and the features of this tool, and then we're gonna come back and wrap this up. Now, before we do, let's just talk about some generalities of this tool. For years, you know, this was called an air belt sander. Well, obviously, this is not air, but if somebody said, hey, I need an air belt sander, you kind of knew it was that narrow, skinny looking thing with the belt on the end of it, because a belt sander was a big wide belt sander, right? And typically if you see a Ryobi belt sander, you're thinking of a 3-inch wide belt sander. So I guess my point in that is, industry, we need a better name for this to specifically call this a rat tail sander belt sander something. I don't know. Anyway, so I'm glad to see this tool. I really am. It's something I've used for years in body work and again doing auto restorations and in some metal work. Haven't used it a lot in wood, but definitely see the uses there as well. But let's actually go over to the bench. Let's dig into some of the features on this and then we'll come back and we'll wrap it up. So here's a look at the new Ryobi PSD101, a little up close. You can see here, pretty long tool. I don't know, it's probably 18 inches long. I'll get out the tape measure here in a moment and measure it. Pretty simple tool. It uses a brushed motor, which in this case, I don't see a reason to be running a brushless motor. Just going to increase cost and really for no reason. It's not a real high RPM tool. It's also not a big, you know, torque monster either. Needs to turn this belt, and typically you're using this for kind of finesse situations. Let's talk about a few of the features and standout features, and then we'll actually use this on a couple of different jobs on some wood, some metal, some sheet metal, some body work. So first thing here, this runs on the 18-volt platform, so the ONE+ platform from Ryobi. So you know, this has powered hundreds of tools. So sticking with that ONE+ platform, the trigger is just a simple on-off trigger. So there is no variable speed on the trigger. Where you get the variable speed is on the speed control right here with your thumb, which at first I looked and said, I don't know if I'm gonna like that, but actually it works very smooth. So you can easily move that. It's very smooth. There's no notches in it or anything else. So you can see when I pull the trigger, I can easily adjust that. And on low, I think it's around 800, 880 RPMs, and then on high, you're looking at right at 2,000, I think 2,065 RPMs on high. So again, it's not a huge, and I'm sorry, that's not RPMs, that's feet per minute. So 880 feet per minute on the lowest speed, and 2,000 feet per minute at the highest speed. And again, you've got that variability to easily change that speed, and there's no set speed you have to go to, so depending on what work you need to do. Also, you have a trigger lock as well, so I can pull that trigger, lock that button, and so now we're locked on and we can use that tool without having to have our finger depressing the trigger. Of course, depress the trigger again and it's going to unlock that button. Now this lever right here is what enables you to remove and change these belts. And when you get this, you get 3 belts with it. You get a 120 grit belt, which is on here. You get a 60 grit belt, which you can see is right here. You can barely read the numbers there, but that's a 60. And then you get an 80 grit belt as well. And to change these, it's really easy. So you flip this up, you take this belt off. If you don't mind, just give me 8 more seconds here. If you like this video, hit the like and subscribe button. If you don't like it, hit the thumbs down, but let us know in the comments. Also, that subscribe button as well as that bell notification to let you know when new videos are available. Back to the video. Put this belt all the way down in this groove down here, past the plastic, and then that gives you enough slack. If you don't get it down there past that plastic, it feels like it's too tight. So I'll show you here. So if I just have it right here, it really doesn't want to go on there. It doesn't want to fit over that rubber wheel there. But if I get it down past the plastic down there and get it deep in that groove, then it actually sits in the wheel down there and easily goes over that. So make sure you get that all the way down in there first, and then you can flip this lever back and you can see it auto tensions that belt there. Now also, as far as trim, because you'll notice that once you start using this, once you put pressure here on the tip on whatever you're sanding on, it'll want to ride one way or the other. And so you can easily adjust that as it's rolling. And you can see here I can trim it with this right here. So be careful, not to get your hands in there, but you can trim that belt from one side to another with this thumb screw right here to make sure it's riding in the center. And again, a lot of times you may not notice that until you're actually sanding on something, grinding on something, what have you. So that little trim knob right there is going to control that trim one side or the other, making sure that that's riding true on that rubber wheel there. So belt changes, fairly easy. And as far as weight of this tool, it's only like 3 pounds with the weight. And they say you get a 90-minute runtime with a 4 amp hour battery. I'm going to say in a tool like this, I don't think you're concerned about runtime. I really don't, because I think if you're doing enough of that to be concerned about runtime, you're probably more in a pro category in a tool like this. But when you do that, you're 4 or 5 times the cost on a really good air belt sander. So I'm not concerned about that, about testing of whether or not this is going to last 90 minutes on this, because probably if you're using it for 90 minutes continuous, you probably need a different tool, whether it's a grinder, a 6-inch sander, what have you. This is more detail-oriented stuff to get in the nooks and crannies and to get to those places where normally you wouldn't be able to, or you may need a hand file or something like that. So let's take this over. Let's use it on a couple of projects, and then we'll give our feedback. So here's a real simple use, typical cutout where you've cut out an internal right angle, and you get that little bit of residual there that you didn't quite get with your miter or with your table saw or however you cut that, because you didn't want to run your lines together and overshoot that. So real easy cleanup there. I've got my 80 grit on here. And you can really be as finesse as you want to. Again, if I wanted to go a little bit finer, I could have gone to my 120 grit. I've got 80 grit on here. And of course, this is plywood, so if you're doing hardwood, it's not going to splinter quite as bad. But anyway, just the ability to get in there and clean up that inside corner. Same way. And you've got that typical, residual left from a hole saw. Again, be able to quickly clean that up without having a hand file or something like that. And the same here with the where maybe you've drilled a hole, started your cut, what have you, and be able to get in there. Now on this, I'm not able to get a lot of that in there, but you can see how, again, with internal shapes and internal cuts, I can get in there and do some sanding on it. And by the way, you can use a couple of things. Number one, right here, you can see where the belt actually rides on a pad and gives you some firmness to where you can really dig in. And then also here, where you're just dealing with tension, you can have a little softer use of that belt as well, where you're not getting quite that harsh. Where again, you can see I can use the tension on the belt and not it just riding against the floor, if you will, to do my sanding and clean up things that way. Now, another example of using this is cleaning up internal welds. So you can see if you're welding up a piece of pipe, or before welding, you've got a piece of pipe cut and not necessarily welding either, but you want to deburr the inside of that. Either you're grabbing a hand file, maybe a die grinder with a burr bit, but maybe you don't have a die grinder with a burr bit. That's where a tool like a mini belt sander or a small belt sander will come in handy. So I can real quickly just bevel that inside lip. And now all I need to do, if I want to, is take a little rat tail file and dress up each one of the corners. So real easy to do that. And I can even dress up these outside edges as well. And then even getting into just cleaning up, the inside of angle or what have you, but to getting that crease in there. There's several ways I can go at it. And this might not be the best tool, but what this tool is known for is literally getting into nooks and crannies where, a round disc or a square disc or a square pad can't get to, or larger tools can't get to. So there's no definition of what this tool is made to do other than get in those smaller spaces where other tools can't. And it does a decent job of doing so. Another nice feature is that right there, of just the fact that now I can stand that tool up and walk away and don't have to lay it down. Has a nice base for the battery. So here's just another use for this tool. In automotive work, in body work, cars are spot welded together, meaning they have two electrodes that pinch down and basically weld most of the car together. There's very few actually arc welds on a car. It's typically done just with the pass-through of electricity through the electrodes and basically just kind of melting those two pieces of metal together. Same case here. Now, this outside door skin comes over and wraps over here and then pinches to this internal metal and it spot welds it together. So there's a few spot welds here. There's one here. There's one right here. There was one right here. And there's probably one somewhere right in here. But you can see where rust has gotten in the middle here. And we need to take this outside door skin off. Well, I don't want to just hack into here and cut all this out because most of this internal metal is still good. So what I can do is use a tool like this to go in and actually grind out those spot welds. Because what I want to do, I want to grind off this top layer, but not get in through this layer, even though right here it's eaten up, but down here, all of this internal layer is still good. So if I can just cut through the top layer and then peel that off and cut that outside layer off, I can replace that, leaving this internal bone structure here. So that's where I can go in with a tool like this. And cut through that outside layer, and now I can just take my pry bar or a little screwdriver and pry that lip off of there after I get my cut, and I can cut that square out of there. So again, that would work a lot better with a thinner belt, but I love using these mini belt sanders or small belt sanders for removing spot welds like this. And then lastly, just the obvious, the ability to be able to get inside of spaces like you see here, be able to grind, whether it's seam sealer, grind away any internal welds that I wanted to touch up, a little bit of rust, what have you. I can get into those smaller spaces, even though it's not going to get into really small spaces, but you can get the snout of that in there where you wouldn't be able to get other grinders or sanders to be able to do, again, inside work, inside of panels like doors, fenders, things like that. This is the type of tool that when you have it around the shop, you start realizing more and more things that you can actually use it for. So it may not be something that you look at and go, oh, I need this for this 20 things, but I need it for this one thing. And then once you have it, you start realizing as you're doing more and more projects that, oh, I could use it here, use it there. Now, at the same time, do I see this as a professional tool for the body man, a professional tool for the woodworker? No, probably not. I think it's for that enthusiast, for that DIY, for that person that's doing little projects here and there. Maybe they're doing their own car restoration in their garage. A great little tool for that, to get in those nooks and crannies, to even get at those spot welds. Even though I found that, you know, doing those spot welds like I love to do with a tool like this, I really like it on a smaller belt. Now, maybe you could run a smaller belt on this. Haven't tried that yet, but maybe we'll follow up and figure that one out. And again, these are more of general use belts here, so you may want to get more specific use belts when you switch to maybe doing metal work and things like that. But for $79, I think this is an easy decision on whether or not it's worth it, and I do think it is. If you're using this a lot, then you're probably going to reach for more of an air sander or something like that, something that's built to, you know, be used and abused every day, where this is going to be more project related, I would say. They say a 90-minute runtime on the 4-amp-hour battery. Again, talking about long-term use like that, I don't see that as a problem. I didn't see it as a reason to check the runtime on it, because again, quite frankly, I think you're going to be using this on short burst projects, if that makes sense, where you're going to use it a little bit. But I will tell you, in a lot of the use we've used it on, and really haven't even gone through any cells on the battery, although I did put a newly charged battery in. But what I'm saying is, I haven't drained a battery yet in the middle of a project in the uses that we've used it around the shop. $79, 3-year warranty on this. You can pick it up at Home Depot. You can get it at homedepot.com as well. So be sure to check it out. Also, keep track of us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. If you don't mind, hit that like and subscribe button if you like this video. If not, let us know. Give us a thumbs down too, but let us know in the comments why you didn't like it. Have a great day and keep smiling.